Well, welcome everybody to the desktop app for Salesforce by S-Drive webinar. My name is Guy Reynolds. I'm going to be the moderator for today to kind of go through everything here. We're going to go ahead and get started. Dave, if you want to go to the next slide for me.
Guy, you're able to see my screen?
I'm not.
I've got a picture up. Tommy, are you seeing my screen?
I'm seeing the first slide of the presentation. I'm not sure if that's what you're actively showing, though.
Okay, let me start again.
Great.
How about now?
There we go. All right, sorry about that. So just introductions for our three speakers here. We have David Sultan. He's our head of product. We have Thomas Norris, our sales engineer. And then I'm Guy Reynolds. I'm a sales executive here at Cyangate. And we're going to be going through your presentation today. As far as an agenda, just so we can set kind of how we're going to run the webinar here, we're going to give you just a brief background of what S-Drive is. We'll do a what is the desktop app. We'll give you guys a roadmap just so you know exactly kind of where we're heading, not only with the S-Drive app, but the desktop app as well. And then at the end, we'll have a quick Q&A session. If you do have any questions, go ahead and throw it into the chat box. We can address them during the meeting. We'll address a few, and then also we'll save some for the end at the Q&A session at the end. So that's what we got. We don't have any questions yet. So what I'll do is I'll turn it over to David, and David can get our meeting started.
Great, thank you, Guy. Guy, can you hear me okay? Just making sure.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Guy. Really super excited to be co-hosting this webinar with Tommy. What I'm going to do right now, we'll start with a quick refresher of S-Drive before we go into the desktop app. So we'll start with a simple thing. What makes S-Drive powerful? So the first thing that is really important for you to know is that we can really save customers a lot of money on storage. So avoiding paying unexpected storage fees and have a more flexible and cost-effective structure. We also provide 30-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. And we have a wonderful support team always available. The user interface is completely built on Lightning, Salesforce, and it's completely bolted on Salesforce. And it's transparent to the users, very user-friendly and real easy to use. The big thing about S-Drive is it can really handle large file size and volume. And we also can accelerate the file upload time almost up to 300% faster than traditional upload time. We provide enhanced security features like document expiration date, access control, and other security features based on the user's roles and permissions. S-Drive is really an easy-to-use folder structure, if you want to look at it that way, for each object. So whether it's an opportunity level, on a case level, the leads, or even having an overall general storage for your files, it's all right there in the screen for you. And we're really getting a lot of good feedback from our customers from a usability and ease of use of our product. The other nice things about S-Drive is the record management. So in addition to just the overall document management that S-Drive provides, we really can help with compliance. So you can set up different retention policies. For example, you can archive or delete files based on specific dates. You can also do a check-in and check-out. So that way, when others are trying to use a particular file, they know that somebody else is working on it, and you can avoid issues. And also you can put what we call a legal hold, which is really preventing from accidentally deleting it or updating it in case you're in the middle of a legal dispute or anything like that. So the file is preserved. Now, in addition to the document management that I talked about, we recently added DocuSign for e-signature. So we now have a full integrated solution with DocuSign. We provide real-time e-signature directly from your files stored in S Drive. And you can take any PDF or any document that can be routed to DocuSign and for e-signature. What's nice about it, if you have your own license, it's bring your own license. And if you don't, we can provision you as well. And what's the benefit for you in general is that it really helps save time by not having to work in two different systems, also reducing the risk of any kind of manual repetitive work, and increase the team productivity by having a fully integrated solution. Some example of how you can use this, maybe sending off sales contract, MSA, SOWs, maybe NDAs, quotes, invoices. You can even submit service proposals, maybe some various tax form documentation to be signed. It can also be used in the public sector for licensing or permitting for public records requests. And finally, it can also apply for healthcare, life science, for like a copay assistance or patient consent. And there are many other use cases that you can apply these to, but just having an integrated solution really makes things easier. Another thing that we've implemented last year is an integration with Office 365. So we've added the ability to open any Office 365 document, whether it's Excel, Word, PowerPoint. You can open it directly from S Drive. And when you make changes, it automatically saves the record within S Drive. So it makes it easier not having to download, re-upload them, and completely stay in sync. It's important to note, since today the topic of the day is the desktop app, if you do get the desktop app, this feature actually comes for free with it. So in case some folks still want to use with it, when we talk about the desktop app in a minute, you'll see the relationship between these two features. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition to our sales engineer, Tommy, who's going to walk us through a quick refresher of S Drive. So take it away, Tommy.
Thank you, David. I'll be sharing my screen now. Please let me know if you have any problems viewing it.
Looks good.
Looks good? Great.
Yes, sir.
So, as discussed by David, this is going to be a quick refresher on S Drive for those of you who maybe aren't actively using it or could just use that. It's not going to be going over all of those features that David mentioned for the sake of time, but we'll try and hit the important ones. So, what we're looking at right here is our global S Drive tab widget. This is where you can see how your files and folders are organized. You can also go as far as looking into this folder tree to see which folders have subfolders nested, and that can go as many layers as you need. This makes it very easy or S Drive as a whole makes it easy to download files directly from your relevant folders and files. We also have a few different ways that you can look at S Drive. For example, I can create a grid view or thumbnail view of my file so I can kind of see what's going on a little bit better. And so this is just for the global view. You can also add that same S Drive widget directly to different record types. This works for all record types. For this, I'm showing you the account. So these files that you're seeing here, they're displayed in the same way as that global S Drive tab. However, they are relevant exclusively to this CyanGate account, and that's the only place that they're being accessed. So from here, it's pretty easy to also upload files. For example, I can do drag and drop, or I can go browsing through my computer. And then you'll be able to see that right there. Because we are native to Salesforce, we also are able to take advantage of their automated processes and in-place services like Salesforce emailing. So if I enter in an email that I want to send this to, what this does is it attaches a link to this budget that once they click on it, it will automatically download that for the person that this is being sent to. This can also be an automated process, but you can do that directly from the relevant record. We also, for the sake of knowing exactly what you're sending and what's been going on with that, we have version control. And so if I go here, I can see exactly what's happened to this. I can also see their version descriptions available in order to get a better understanding of what is going on with this file as it goes through the process with this record. And I can go as far as setting a previous version of this file to be the most up-to-date one in case there was possibly an error, anything of that nature. again, going to one of those features that David discussed earlier, we also have check-in, check-out features. So if I have to work on this personally, or for any reason I don't want people interacting or sending this out, I can go ahead and check that out. And then it automatically downloads a version for me. But once I'm done doing what I need to do, I can check that back in. I can either upload a new version of this file, or I can say the current version is okay. We also enable, as discussed, online editing. So while in my browser, I can go ahead. If I need to make a quick change, and this is already available on a community site, anything like that, forgot to add the company name, go ahead and say Cyangate, enter that in, saved automatically. Once I close that out, you'll see that it's checked out to make sure nobody's accidentally interacting with it in an unintentional way while I make those changes. So then, once I finish the online edit, that change is made and it's automatically made accessible again once I am finished. Also, I know that we discussed sending an emailed link of a document, but say you want somebody to be able to interact with it in a greater way. We also have this thing called public share. So if I was to select that, I can say that I want somebody to be able to access this folder. So I can then create different kind of rules around that, what they're allowed to do, if they can upload files to this folder, if I need to password protect it. We give a lot of range for how this is interacted with. Once I copy that, paste that link in just like any other. And you'll see what we're loading up is our custom SURL page. And then you see that same S Drive Lightning widget. And based on the permissions that you set, you can now send this to internal or external users as needed to send in the information that they need. Apologies. There we go. So that's just a quick overview of S Drive as it exists in Salesforce today. And I'm going to be passing it back over to David so he can talk a little bit more about the desktop app.
All right, thank you so much, Tommy. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. You see the screen that says what desktop app?
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. Great. All right, so now let's talk specifically about our latest release of the desktop app. Think of the desktop app as your local drive, much like SharePoint, Box, or any other file system you're using. It's like we call it an S local drive. And it's really visible to you, just like any other drive on your File Explorer, for example. It provides visibility into all of your Salesforce file and objects level. So whether it's your opportunity, whether it's your leads, whether it's your cases, you'll be able to browse through it navigate it just like any other folder structure. Now, we built this feature based on feedback from our customers, and we have a couple of customers right now who we are considering as early adopter of this product. And we're getting more feedback from them as we are doing this. And at the end of the presentation, we also will give you an opportunity to become an early adopter if you would like to. What's nice about this is any changes that are being made either in Salesforce or directly on your desktop, all being reflected in both directions. We believe that it's a game changer for our customers and who requires a lot of people working on files. And it really just eliminate the need to constantly log in and out of Salesforce, and everything is right there for you on your desktop. So we hope this is going to make our customers more productive with the day-to-day work. Now, in summary, some of the, just like before we go into the demo, in summary, what's nice about the desktop app, your navigation of Salesforce, you do that directly from your desktop. You can leverage any of your local desktop applications. So for example, if you're using Foxit or Adobe PDF Editor or Microsoft Office 365 or any other local application you're using, you can literally work on it in there, and you save them as you work in locally, and they'll be immediately transferred into the Salesforce side. So there's no need to log into Salesforce. You'll be able to browse, update, delete any records locally. It really will save you time, increase productivity, and being able to work locally without the need to constantly upload and download documentations. And the desktop app really makes it easier from a collaboration point of view. So I think at this point it would be nice for you guys to see it because this is why we're here today. So Tommy, I'm going to have you do take 2 and you can jump right into the desktop app demo.
Sounds good. Thank you, David. So again, please let me know if you can see my screen all right.
Yes. Good.
Great. So as David just talked about, what we're looking at is that same record I was discussing previously, as well as my local computer up here. And down here, as you saw a small snippet of, we have S Drive now living on your computer virtually, but in the same way that you would see your Windows hard drive, Mac hard drive, whatever computer you're using. And so if I was to step into that, I see some things that may be familiar to you. These are all the objects that I have active on my Salesforce org. So if I jumped into account, I'll see that SignGate record, and then you'll see the exact replica of what we have over there. And so what's going on with this is we have it syncing directly to your S Drive in Salesforce onto the S Drive living on your desktop app. And so instead of having to go into Salesforce, I can drag and drop entire folder structures in. That way, if I've already been working on a set of things and I need to get them into my S Drive quickly for others to work with, I can have it in. And then upon refreshing that side, you'll see that that folder has then been brought in. And this works both ways too. If you just want to quickly get something from your S Drive into your personal computer and you don't have your browser open, you can drag and drop it right in and you'll see that. And you can also keep track of what's happening with our S Drive desktop processor tab. So you can see everything that's going on with uploading and downloading files from your S Drive on your local computer. So, excuse me. Uh, let's say, for example, you have an incomplete document at the moment that is already in a community site or in an SURL, and you just want to be able to make that change that you forgot about quickly. If I click into that contract, it's opening up now. You'll see it opens up just like it would be on your local folder, but you'll see that it's actually in your S drive. So if I go ahead and change that, save it, that change is then automatically reflected on the Salesforce side. You can also go as far as uh, creating files from within your S drive. I know that we showed that you can already work with Office 365 via our integration in Salesforce, but you can also use any of your preferred apps that you use for file creation. So for example, if I'm finished with these 2 documents that are currently in my S drive, but I want them to be merged just for awareness or for sending a singular file to a customer, I can drag and drop these 2 directly in. So there we go. Sorry, I went a little too far, but we can go ahead and combine them all. And now I have a combined version of these documents. And instead of having to download those documents from S Drive, do that merge on my local application, and then re-upload it to my S Drive in Salesforce, I can just do all of that directly from my computer. I can save them back in. And then they'll immediately be available for the rest of your org and anybody you shared a particular folder with or on a community site. You can see that here. This also does a great deal in helping with compliance because while you can access these from your personal computer, these files are not being saved locally as you do this. So if there are any contractual concerns in that way, you can rest assured that you can still use these files on your application without having them directly saved to your local computer. If you are a user that has a great number of records, for example, you're a large organization, you have thousands of records at your disposal, but for you as a user, only a few are relevant to you, you're able to use this S Drive list view. So any Salesforce list views that you already have enabled, you can go ahead and set those so that you're only seeing what's important to you as a user. If I save that. And not only does this help just for your ease of access to the things that are important to you, This also, I'm sure a lot of people may be concerned with your thousands upon thousands of records about possibly crashing your computer with all those being loaded in. First off, the S Drive desktop app already takes steps to ensure that you aren't getting overloaded with all of the records in your Salesforce. We have a default number that are loaded in automatically, but this process can go ahead and take that a step further by only loading in a certain set of those already being automatically loaded in. So excuse me. There we go. So if I go back here, make sure I've reloaded that, you'll see that I only have a small subset of the records that I previously had here. And while the opportunity folder is still being shown, it's showing itself as empty because S Drive knows that you don't want to look at those. So it's not actually taking the time to go through that. And then say there was a bit of a mistake there, or maybe not a mistake, but a record that you didn't realize would be relevant to an account that you have active is no longer being shown because of that setup that you have, if it's not in the specific list view. Despite them not being directly loaded in, you can still, because this is in your local directory, or at least being shown as such, you can still go ahead and manually add in that information that you need. And the S Drive desktop app will find and pull in that record that you're looking for by the name that you put in. So then I now have access to this, even if I wasn't sure I was going to need it previously. So in conclusion, the S Drive desktop app helps you to both improve your ease of access to your files, but also adds a great deal more tools at your disposal by bringing all the power of your local machine to the files that you have accessible on your S Drive. I can hand it back to you, David.
Awesome, Tommy. I am going to share my screen back again. Let me know when you can see it.
Perfect.
Great. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the roadmap. So hopefully you enjoyed the demonstration that Tommy did for you. We are super excited about the desktop app. We've been working on this for months and months. It's about to get released, but let me do a quick kind of like setback of all the things we've done at the late of last year and all the things that are currently planned for this year. So let me quickly start with last year. At the end of last year, we really focused on two main things. One of them was the integration with DocuSign. So we now have a fully integrated solution within S Drive where you can route any documents that needs to go to DocuSign for e-signature. That's now available. But we also spend a lot of time working on small and major enhancements, mostly related to performance. We've had whether bugs or enhancement that the customer requested and things that maybe Salesforce requested us to work on. We spend a bunch of time at the end of the year getting those performance improvements. And that's all that was done at the end of last year. Going forward, there are a lot of things we have a very aggressive roadmap, an exciting roadmap. The first thing you'll see on the list is the asynchronization zip and download. We've have, I believe, either one or two customers impacted by this. And what it is if you are trying to zip up really large file or folders and then trying to interact with it, and it sometime will time out. And we've done a lot of tests and realized that there's a specific threshold that if you get to, the browser may time out, therefore the process doesn't complete. So for the one or two customers that were impacted, we gave them a workaround. And meanwhile, we are putting it into at the end of the month, early next month, we'll be releasing what we call an asynchronization process. So as a user, when you submit the request to be able to zip folder that are large, it will happen behind the scene in an asynchronization process. So hopefully that's resolved, and anybody that may encounter that in the future will benefit from having this functionality. The other thing that we're doing, it's actually a major project. It's called Document Intake Process. And that is a completely new product offering for us. That's also going to be part of our Salesforce offering. And it will basically allow customers to collect document and then store them back into S Drive. And I'll explain in a second how that works. But we basically facilitate the document collection process, such as content or any data from customers, and manage their entire life cycle. So for example, if you take a loan application, an insurance claim, a college application, you may be onboarding a new employee, a new teacher, a new nurse. We're going to be using things like form signing of a documents, uploading new documents. So think of S-Drive today really does a lot of overall document management, and the file intake will provide a collection process from external sources. And we've heard this from several customers, the need for it. So we decided to invest the time and energy in making this a product offering. If you stay tuned in the next, probably I would say month or two, there's going to be some formal webinar and launch activities that are coming around the document intake. The second thing that we're embarking on is the integration with FormStack. FormStack, for those who don't know, is a leading Salesforce partner focusing mostly on document generation. And we recently became a partner with them, and we are bringing the document generation, the PDF merge, and the e-signature right into S-Drive. We've had several mutual customers that asked for this, so we decided to take and make this part of the overall document generation process, basically using FormStack bolted into S-Drive. And we believe that this combined solution will save our customers time, money, by not having to work in two different systems or having to build a one-off integration. And what we really found is a lot of synergy between FormStack and S-Drive, and we decided to make this available to new customers and existing customers of both of ours. And we are super excited about that. So stay tuned as well for formal webinar and launch activities that are coming up. The last two things you'll see on the screen, one of it says PIM DEM for Salesforce and OneTag. Let me explain you what those are. These are actually major initiatives on our end, may even spill into early next year. So the PIM DEM for Salesforce is basically we've been working on a new integration platform as a service called OneTag. It's a completely new product, not related to Salesforce at all. And it's basically a no-code, low-code integration platform. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with Zapier, Workato, MuleSoft. It's a basically other integration platform, but our specialty is around digital assets, product information, document management, and the entire ecosystem of the e-commerce platforms. So we decided to use OneTag inside Salesforce as our first product or our first project. So our first product offering is basically going to be allowing digital asset management or DEM vendors or product information PIM vendors to be able to take all of their product data and digital assets and completely bring it into the Salesforce cloud, whether it's Sales or Service Cloud. So let me give you an example. We're really trying to make it easier. Say if you are a support team and you're servicing a customer who just called and opened a case, what we are really doing is bringing all the product information and digital content that is associated with that customer right into Salesforce. Another example could be if you are a sales associate and instead of opening cases, you actually maybe want to do a cross-sell or an upsell. So say a customer called with an issue, as you're talking to them, you can cross-sell and upsell them based on the fact that you know A, what they bought, and B, that you bring in all the data from the product information system out there. Now, in addition to those two use cases, we also bringing the Experience Cloud to be part of it. So customer will be able to log in using the Experience Cloud portal, doing a self-service, and they can see what product they purchased. They can see documentation of the product. They can download the documentation from that product. So really, we are streamlining the process for exposing product information and digital assets right into Salesforce. So once we get that done, then we are planning on using OneTag to integrate any Salesforce application to each other. So it doesn't matter which application app you're running for Salesforce. Once we bring OneTag into the mix, customers can start using it to facilitate any data movement, whether it's assets or product or content, just using OneTag. So I think this is awesome from our perspective. I think we concluded the formal presentation. I think what we'd like to do now is jump right into the Q&A session. And I'm going to let Guy sort of facilitate since he kept an eye on the, I guess, the queue. Guy, so I'm turning it over to you.
Perfect. So we got a couple things, and I replied to a couple of the questions just to make sure we have all the information we were looking at. But I'll go down to our second question here. For you, Thomas, I believe. What happens if you accidentally alter the record or object folders?
Thank you. That's a great question. I know that there's a lot of anxiety regarding, just a simple human error or misclick, but the way that we have it set up, if you recall, I believe the question is about that account, case, contact, etc., those folders that were representing our object types. If you were to say accidentally delete one of those entirely, or say you accidentally clicked on account and dragged it inside of your opportunity folders, it will automatically reset as soon as you refresh the screen. S Drive desktop app takes steps to make sure that the integrity of your records and your objects is preserved while still having them represented in a familiar and easy to access folder format. So I hope that answers the question.
Perfect. And then the next one we have here is there a way to easily find a record when you have a large list view?
Great question. So as you might have seen, if you have the exact name of the record that you're looking for, and even with a list view, it's too long, you can go ahead and type that directly into the path and hit enter, and it'll take you right there. Alternatively, because this is living on your desktop, or is at least being interacted with as if it lived on your desktop, you can go ahead and use your file directory's native search capabilities to find that. Like, say, for example, I knew it was Cyan something was the name of my record, but I couldn't remember Cyangate. If I type Cyan and just hit search in whichever, either at the global level or directly in the account object level, it will pull up the names of records that have that with it. So you can use, to answer your question, you can use both your desktop's native search functionality for files as well as adding it into the path as we showed.
Cool. The next one I have here, as an admin, can we restrict to one list view for one object for all the users, or does that need to be done by each user individually?
So S Drive with desktop app, I hope I'm answering this correctly. Feel free to put in the chat if you have further questions about that, or you can email us at products@sdrive.com if I don't fully answer this here. But the S Drive desktop app works directly off of the native sets of permissions established in your Salesforce org. So if you were to restrict your users to a specific list view, that would then be by default what you are using. It's an important thing to note that I wasn't able to show here because I was already logged in, but this is not an org-wide login credentials that you use for S Drive desktop app. Every user is logging in with their own personal credentials. So if based on their permissions, they are already restricted to only seeing certain types of records, that is what will be available to them in the S Drive desktop app.
Perfect. All right. Awesome. And then here's another question I got. Does S Drive allow users outside of your Salesforce.com org to edit Excel files?
So I would say that the main way that that would be best utilized or best handled would be, as you saw from that SURL functionality, you can provide them the location where the Excel file that you're interested in them having edited is located. And then from there, they would be able to upload their own personal versions of the Excel file. So say that you had a client that you needed specific information from regarding your Excel file, you could go ahead and share a folder where that Excel file is stored and give them the proper access permissions, and they'll be able to upload a new version for you so that you can get the information that you need. I hope that answers that properly.
Awesome. And then the last question I have in here, what happens if you lose your internet connection while working with the desktop app?
So, S Drive desktop app, what happens when, say, you're in the middle of uploading a big set of folders or files, or you're making a change? If your connection gets cut in the middle of that process, S Drive desktop app will automatically halt that procedure, wait until you have an internet connection back, and then immediately resume where it left off. And you'll be able to keep track of that process through that background processes tab that I showed you, showing where uploads and downloads will happen, it will show you if you lost your connection, it'll show that it's been halted. And then as soon as you get your internet connection back, it will go ahead and push that change. And we also have an offline editing feature built in that does exactly that. If you know that you're on the move, but you want to be working on some files that are already available on your computer, you can go in the offline version, make the changes and edits you need, as well as any uploads that you need. And then once you get your connection back, it'll use that same process to then push those changes and uploads that you made while you were offline. Hope that answers the question.
Yep, that's perfect. And then we had one further comment from Sri, the insights on versioning feature. What I'm going to do, I asked you to kind of elaborate on that just because I wasn't 100% sure what you're asking for there. What I'll do is I will reach out to you via email, or Thomas will via email to kind of get more information on kind of what you're looking for, and then we can answer that offline. But I did have one more question come in, Thomas. Would we need to reconfigure permissions to work in the desktop app how they do in S Drive?
No. So just circling back to that portion of the discussion, the way that S Drive desktop app works is it immediately connects your personal set of login credentials to your Salesforce. So based on the permissions that a certain user already has, based on their admin and what role they're playing, those permissions are automatically translated to the desktop app. So those kinds of list views and access permissions, edit permissions, all of those things that you would normally have in your S Drive and Salesforce are all translated over to your S Drive desktop app.
Awesome. Perfect. So I think that's all of our questions here. Just remember, guys, if you want to become an early adopter for the new desktop app, please contact Thomas. His email, thomas.norris@cyangate.com. Also, I understand that, after you take in this meeting and everything like that, you might have some additional questions either on S Drive or the desktop app itself. Do not hesitate to ask us a question. You can email us straight at product@sdriveapp.com. And we'll get your answers to any questions that you may have about the product or even desktop app online via email. That concludes the meeting for the webinar for today. David, Thomas, do you have anything else you want to add before we call it a day here?
No, thank you everybody so much for attending. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave any comments like you enjoyed it or not, but we greatly appreciate it.
Awesome.
Agreed.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
if you're interested in that early adoption, feel free to send me an email and we can talk about that. And I can even set up a demo for you as needed if there's anything we missed here.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we'll give you about 19 minutes back into your day here to finish up lunch, take on some extra meetings. And again, if you have any questions, please don't feel free to email us at product@salesdriveapp.com. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.